Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 5th episode of Suddenly Silver, and I hope you have a great Monday morning. I say Monday because although it's currently Saturday, I'm recording this to be released at the Monday, and I'm going to put it at 7 o'clock in the morning because that's what I've been doing for no apparent reason. I hope you're comfortable watching this. I can assure you at the time this goes live at 7 o'clock in the morning on the actual Monday, I will not be. I'll be in fact at the airport, and I've been there from 5 o'clock in the morning, where I'll spend the next few hours waiting for guests and sending them off again before carting them all off to their respective hotels. Then the day will go on and I will be working until about 8 o'clock in the evening, which makes for a nice working day of 5 to 8. So that's about, 15 hours. Fortunately, on the other days I get to check out boat trips and get invited to special dinners a whole lot, which compensates it. But the Monday, definitely not my favorite day. Fortunately, though, in the weekend on this beautiful Saturday, I've just come from a swim where I watched the sun go down into the sea, where it cools and becomes the moon, as we all know. Those kind of moments do fix it for me, and I can make Starcraft videos in the evening, which I'm doing right this moment. This is a PvP, as you might have seen right now by the scouting probe scouting the other Protosses. This one is making a gateway, and his name is badmadafaka. And we'll see how badmadafaka is doing right after he chases my probe away. It's going to have a peek back in the base. I see he has a gateway, and I would like to see if he's taking any gases or what's going to come after the gateway. So he is taking a gas, so I'm expecting a fairly standard play, something with stalkers and mothership cores perhaps, and that's about all I can infer from this gas at this time, being a silver newbie. Myself, I'm making a gateway as well, and foregoing the gas for a bit because I don't need it until the 18 supply mark, which is actually right now, where I'm getting both gases simultaneously. As you might recognize, I'm doing the 2 Stalker and Mothership Core build, which is generally meant for play against Terran players, but I'm liking it also against Protosses because it gives you the early scouting opportunity with those Stalkers and Mothership Core, where you can, if the opponent is not prepared, you can do some damage. Here my probe is being chased by 2 of his probes, so that's a win in my book. I'm gaining some mining time. This one is not doing anything, but these 2 aren't doing anything either. This might seem small, but it's a small advantage nonetheless, and it might mess up his build, causing a sort of snowball effect. Here I'm pulling half my probes to kill his ones, where I'm probably evening out the mining time lost. And I should have killed them both really, because then he wouldn't be able to scout me, but I missed that. I killed the one and the second one is still here. Cybernetics core is going down, and this is a slight hiccup. This should have been a mothership core. At least the stalker and the warp gate tech is going down simultaneously. But here, this probe here really should have been a mothership core. I'm the blue player, and you can see at the top I have the resources, I have the supply, so that should be one of those. Unless I was actually, no, scratch all of that, that should definitely not have been a mothership core. I said I was going for the 2 Stalker build, which is patently false, because we're not seeing a mothership core. It's been a few days since I played this game, so I'm going to cite that as a reason for this monumental miscast. I'm going for another gateway, and what's going to come after this, apparently I have no idea. I've scouted this guy to have a gateway, not much else, so that's not a lot of useful information. I knew he was going for a gas, so at least not any fast expand builds going down, but then again, in these silver leagues you really cannot be sure about these things. Players can just basically turn up and do anything. Mothership core going down now finally, and I'm getting a Stargate down, so it appears I'm going to go for a Sky Toss build, where I'm going to try and kick this other guy from the map with a big Armada. Let's call it the Golden Armada, why not? They do it everywhere. My Armada is going to be the Silver Armada. What the hell else is it going to be? I'm not in gold, I'm a silver man, so the only silver ship in the Protoss fleet is probably just the Void Ray. Stalkers are also silver, so it was probably going to be Stalker, Void Ray. A Silver Armada, why the hell not? So Stargate going down, Warp Gate research almost finished, and then I'll have the 2 gateways turning into Warp Gates and a Stargate, which is pretty good for spending the money from one base. And I have 3 Stalkers and the Mothership Core right here, right now, and it's going to kill the Scouting Probe, shutting that down effectively. So I'm hoping my opponent does not know I have a Stargate. Let's look if he does. No, he has no idea. So that's great. And I've got getting some more stalkers out from these 2 gateways and the sentry, because in preparation for this Stargate, which is now making a Phoenix, I was floating a little bit of gas, so I'm making the sentry, which is always useful. It can do force fields, guardian shields, or even a hallucination, all of which are pretty useful. So this Phoenix I built to go scouting with, so let's follow it around the map and see what it turns up. This map is really some kind of big starship platform. It could be going anywhere. This is the core. This all has nothing to do, but I really quite like the new tile sets for Heart of the Swarm. They're not very logical, it doesn't make any sense, but then again we're playing a space game where there's aliens, humans and cybernetic psionic protosses, so nothing too much to worry about sensibility. I see my opponent has built a lot of cannons. My guess is he has been Mutalisk harassed in the past few games or something like that, because this is really not a pro move without any scouting information to tell him that I am going for some kind of drop play or harassment or whatever. So many cannons here just in a standard build really isn't the hallmark of a pro. I don't see any expansions and I didn't see a large army, so at this point I am not very worried and I'm taking my expansion. The Stargate is now going to proceed to crank out the Silver Armada ships, starting of course with the first Void Ray. Is it actually the yes, it's actually the first Void Ray of this game. So I'm getting the +1 air upgrades. I find the air weapon upgrades really make a difference, especially with the Void Ray, which has a low amount of damage. Void Rays are the Marines of the air. They're big flying robots, whereas Marines are just guys with guns, so they're the Marines of the air. Because they do a low amount of damage and they have a quick attack speed. And it looks like a continuous beam, but it's actually an attack with a 0.5 speed. So an upgrade to that, a +1 to that, will do a lot more as compared to say an Immortal, which has a big shot every few seconds, and then gets a few extra damage to that shot. The upgrades are generally a lot better against for the units with either multiple attacks or a fast attack speed, because they get a percentually a greater increase in damage, which gives them with the faster attack speed a much bigger increase in DPS, which is of course what we care about, the damage per second. How much damage does it actually do? So this probe is going out here, I think, to make a proxy pylon. Let's see if the order has been given. Yes, it's going to make a pylon here. A little bit out of the way, but that's what I'm hoping for, that my opponent won't find what's going on. So I'm rocking with a 5 Stalker, 4 Zealot, 2 Sentry, 2 Void Ray, Mothership Core Phoenix army. Not quite the silver, yeah, let's call it the Silver Armada, why not? It's got some silver units in it, and it feels confident, and it's going to see what it can do. First thing it's going to do is reinforce this proxy pylon, so I think we're going to see some warp ins here. I'm currently at here at 2 warp gates, and I might adding the gas here and putting probes on that pronto. So I have a fairly good feel for when my buildings are finishing in here. Third Void Ray is coming out. The +1 weapons upgrades has finished, and for the +2 you need a fleet beacon, which is a fairly big investment. So I'm foregoing that for now and just going to keep cranking out Void Rays. My expansion is finished and starting to be saturated. Making a second Stargate here to make use of these new resources from the second base, because of course we're going to get more research and we want to spend it, because money in the bank really isn't doing anyone any good. You might have heard the pros talk about keeping your money low, and this is not important because a taxman is going to come and get interest off your money. No, it's because if you mine the money and the money just sits in your bank, money doesn't have guns, so it doesn't fight for you, it doesn't defend for you, it doesn't produce for you. So whatever you're going to spend your money on, be it structures, be it units, be it defenses, anything, literally anything, is better than just having a high bank account. So always try to spend your money, because having some stuff, even if it's not like the right counter or whatever, having some stuff is a lot better. So here we find the army. I saw it, I got a little bit carried away in my rant about money, but I saw in the scouting that it was mostly Zealots and Immortals, which made me feel fairly comfortable with my Void Ray army here, because of course Zealots and Immortals don't shoot up. The ground part of the Silver Armada here is of course consisting of Stalkers and Zealots and Sentries, which represents a fair amount of my army, small as though it may be. So the ground still has something to fear from these Immortals, especially the Stalkers. And as I did in the previous game, I'm foregoing ground upgrades altogether, because I'm going Void Rays and getting some upgrades for them, just the one. I think in retrospect this is a mistake. I should be getting the ground upgrades as well, because they're just too good to not get. Dimensional strings attuned. What does that mean? I think that means an oracle. I still have a little bit of trouble with these units, because the attack, let's see what it does. It's really good versus light, and so it's great at killing workers and marines maybe, but it also has a low amount of hit points, so it really is a harassing unit. And here I'm just going to use it for the wait, let's reverse that and let's rewind that and see how that battle goes. Going to reduce the speed a little bit, because of course we need to be able to cast some battles here. So he walks into position, his stalkers in front, my sentries are taking the fire, which is of course not good. I tried to focus fire the void rays, which isn't going great, but now it is, and they're going to target fire the stalkers. I got a comment on the last video saying I should have target fired the immortals, but I'm doing it here now because I have a fairly higher number of void rays, and if I can just take out his anti-air, the rest will be easy pickings. I've got the oracles here, which I tried to use for their cannon, but that didn't go so well. Here his army is coming back, and I'm going to try the same tactic again. Basically focus down the stalkers with the void rays so that his anti-air dies. And look, here the oracles are doing some damage, but it's not great. So they're not great against armored, and I should have maybe used them more for their vision and scouting ability than for their raw damage, which, although it is a lot against light, it's really not very good against anything else. I'm not sure if my assessment of that is correct, but that's how I feel about the oracle. The other things it can do, of course, are the detecting of cloaked or otherwise invisible units, and it can do a little bit of a scan from a certain range where it can grant you some vision. These are, of course, useful things to have. Rallying my army here, there's been a little skirmish. I think I came ahead in the units lost count. Yes, my opponent has lost. Wait, no, I'm the blue one. Yeah, I lost more than he did, but I think I also have more stuff. At any rate, it's still fairly even. His immortals are chewing up my stalkers, whereas my void rays are dishing out the punishment from my part. So this proxy pylon has gone down, and I'm now retreating to my third, which I'm trying to secure by having my army here. This is actually a choice here I made to not continue with the pressure, which wasn't going that well. Just have the army here, so any attack on my bases is a little bit better covered by my army. Getting a third down now and adding some gateways here, because as I said, I'm going to need a way to spend this money. So anytime you make a new base and start to saturate it, it's wise to add on production capability, be they Stargate, Warp Gates, or whatever you want to use to spend your money. The fact that these air weapon upgrades are unlocked, it means I have a fleet beacon somewhere, which is here, and we'll see what I'm doing with that. I'm making a carrier. So the Silver Armada is getting some golden counterparts here. I'm making this here because I saw it in a game with, I think, the Mag and the Muslim, or one of these pro players. They had some carriers in it, and it was a serious game, and they were really good. And I haven't used carriers in an actual game in, I think, in forever. So in this game where I was going to go Sky Toss anyway, I've got a fair amount of Void Rays up at this point, and a few Stalkers and a few Zealots still up, and I just wanted to add a carrier or two. I'm doing well on the money front. I'm quite rich, going on three mining bases, or at least let's have a look at that. Yeah, my first base is almost mined out, but I'm pretty well saturated with, let's see how many probes I have. I've got 71 probes, so that's going great. And let's see, a carrier and the Tempest joining the party, great. And of course the second level of weapon upgrades for the air units. So let's see how this glorious carrier gets here. One thing I could have done with the fleet beacon is get a mothership. The carrier has arrived indeed, and it immediately starts building interceptors on autocast. You shouldn't forget to put this on autocast, because otherwise it's just not going to build any. One thing I could have done with the fleet beacon is to make a mothership core into a mothership. First of all, I should have rebuilt the mothership core after it had been lost. But this unit is not firmly in my scheming mind yet, so I did not do this. And next time I'm going to have a fleet beacon, I'm just going to get a mothership, just so I start to be aware of its existence, because I do not think this guy has a lot of detection anywhere. I have the Oracle here. This time it's here for the detection and the scouting. It's not going to be using its cannon, at least not on purpose. Let's see how it does that. It scouts just by going there. Great. Oh, and it actually uses its scouting ability. So, what the hell does this work? Oh, it actually remains on that. Oh, that's great. Oh, so the battle is going down and my carrier is ripping them apart while the Void Rays are ripping them apart. But the carrier is pretending it's them. And at this point, they really don't have any chance. There's too much Void Raying going on. All the ground units get torn up by the Immortals, but they are now no match for my army. The Tempest is ripping up this Nexus from far away. The carrier is having a field day, and even though it's photon overcharged, the Nexus goes down. Some Stalkers got warped in, but the Void Rays here managed to clean them up. And at this point, I'm very pleased with my carrier's conduct of getting this Immortal out of here. The interceptors really do a lot of damage. They do 14 damage, 7 times 2, and there is of course 8 interceptors. So one carrier does a sick amount of damage. And if you can protect it and keep it alive, I think it's really great to have, because if your opponent is not on the ball, he will mess up his AI attacking with attacking these interceptors, which is something that's always great. It's like basically it's a free shield, because any unit that shoots at the interceptors doesn't shoot at any of your actual units. So with this Armada over his natural, which is now decimated, second carrier coming in, badmadafaka has GG'd. It's one of the first opponents that actually offered me a GG, so I was very pleased with this, and it was a first win in a series of games. So my opponent wasn't the best, but I won and I used a carrier. So that was a great game in my book. Thank you for watching. I hope you had a great time, just as I did. And of course, as ever, if you liked it, please subscribe and like this video, so I know you liked it, and this gives me motivation to make more of them. Anyway, have a nice onset continuation of your Monday, or whatever other day you might be watching this on, and I hope to see you guys next time. This was Lorenzo with Suddenly Silver. Goodbye.